7. We're in round 9, so 7 and 1.
It's got 4 Phantasmal images.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has Phantasmal images. I think he has like a singleton Diagraph Captain and some other stuff.
Yeah, he's got 1 captain.
But Taylor on the left is playing mono green Infect. Pretty standard deck list. I mean, the deck lists vary, but the goal of the deck and the core is exactly the same of what it's trying to accomplish. So you're going to find your Ichor Claw Mirrors, your Glistener Elves, your Pump Spells, a couple Zeniths, that sort of thing. So
it's kind of interesting. Nick's list is basically almost looks like a birthing pod list with a number of like 1-ofs and what have you, with no birthing pod, but he does have it in the sideboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it can kind of transform a little bit.
Right.
Now, I have a pretty good amount of Infect experience through my online play, and this is the deck I don't want to play against at all, is Zombies.
Well, actually, I think of the various ways that you can build zombies, the way that Vincent's deck is set up is actually among the easier configurations for Infect to play against. He has very little in the way of instant speed removal, just 3 Tragic Slips, 3 Mortarpods, which sort of count, 1 Guess Verdict, and 2 Black Zeniths, but he's only got 1 Fume Spitter. I mean, if you were to imagine a list of zombies who would want to play against, this is pretty close to it.
Okay.
But yeah, in general, the matchup is not very good.
Yeah, it's just not, and it's funny because Zombies is a deck that doesn't play defense very well.
Yep.
But yet, like a card like Fume Spitter is like an absolute nightmare for an Infect deck to play against, and Guess Verdict if they're playing them, Mortarpods, Tragic Slips, like, and a solid clock to back it all up.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a pain to play against.
Yeah, the zombie deck can actually kill you also very quickly and can provide relevant disruption.
As we see a mental misstep on the Gravecrawler there from Taylor. And he's going to have, look, this is likely to be an Ichor Claw Mirror. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's going to pass right on back.
Misstepping the Gravecrawler is very aggressive play.
Yeah, I mean, what I've found, especially in this matchup, and I don't know if he knows I don't know if he knows that he's playing against zombies. I guess the Gravecrawler is like a dead giveaway, but I would rather save that likely for a Tragic Slip or a Fume Spitter.
Yep.
Than just countering a creature that is going to likely come back at some point in the game, especially to take 2 damage to do it.
Yeah.
So we see Butcher Ghoul here from Nick Vincent, which is, I mean, unless there's a Rancor coming, fantastic card against Ichor Claw Mirror just to buy yourself some time.
Yep. Yeah, he has Gravecrawler, so it's not actually too hard for him to muster an offense. The biggest question is he's going to be able to take these kind of hits.
Yes.
So I think he's just going to let this go through.
I think we're going to see Wild Defiance. Yep. And if Nick is not careful, a combination of Apostle Blessing plus like a Pump Spell can end this game right away. So taking that hit and not turning his Butcher Ghoul into a 2/2 may be a little bit questionable now.
Yeah, it's hard to get into the mode of, chump blocking while I'm at 20-0 poison, but here we are, He has to leave this guy. I think he's going to cast Messenger this turn, and I'm almost positive he has to leave his Butcher Ghoul back.
Yeah, I mean, Butcher Ghoul you just can't risk dying.
Yeah.
Now he also has a Phantasmal Image in his hand as well, which he can copy the Ichor Claw Mirror, so that Apostle's Blessing is much worse because it's only going to be able to get through, obviously, 1/2, either black or artifact.
Yep.
But we'll see what he decides his line of play is going to be as we see Gravecrawler come back.
He has Phantasmal Image in his hand, which he can actually use to...
Yeah, that's what I meant. Him copying Ichor Claw Mirror is actually like super good here because of it shuts off Blessing, basically.
Yeah. Again, he's going to play it safe and not get in with his Butcher Ghoul in case the image gets killed. He still has something on the back to defend himself. Also, obviously, a big fan of Nick's Beta Swamps.
I'm proud. I'm glad.
Keeping it classy.
Glad we can make it happy.
So, pretty rough because obviously Taylor doesn't want to trade here, but it's also just kind of hard for him to like plow through the Phantasmal Image. Like, he doesn't really want to fire off a spell killing it because he needs a density of spells to be able to like slog through the various creatures that Vincent's going to be playing. But he doesn't have too much of a choice.
And it's just an immediate block. I guess he is going to protect his guy from the infect counter by giving protection from artifacts.
Okay.
Which is like an oak. I mean, it's not the greatest use of Apostle's Blessing, but I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're in that situation, and we can see Taylor's hand a little bit, there's a Blight Mob and a Nickerclaw hiding out there, I think you can just be like, okay, like, you got this one. Like, you took care of this guy because, you know, I need this Apostle's Blessing is what's going to basically win me the game and get me through the zombies that you're going to put in play.
That was a huge draw also for Vincent. He just peeled Mortarpod. Yeah,
which can start clearing out some of these guys because Mortarpod trumps the interaction of Wild Defiance, because Wild Defiance is only an instant or sorcery. That's going to give something +3/+3.
So he has Gravecrawler plus another zombie plus Mortarpod here.
Yeah.
Which can allow him to start getting some real traction in the game, start gunning down all these guys. I would just shoot the untapped Nickerclaw Mirror right away, I think, and then get in with the Gravecrawler. It looks like he has a Diregraph Ghoul to follow up with too, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, you want to kill the stuff if you're Nick on Taylor's on his turn. Nick wants to kill the stuff on his own turn because of a card like Mutagenic Growth or, you know, Apostle's Blessing, what have you. You know, if he has the Mutagenic Growth now, it's a complete waste. It's 2 damage, you know, and it doesn't really accomplish very much. Whereas if he waits until Taylor's turn, it can really backfire against him really poorly.
Surprised he didn't ship with the Gravecrawler there. It seems like
it's like a free attack, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't block, so.
And yeah, I would have definitely have gone and definitely would have gone just shot on his turn. There's no reason to get fancy here. You're compelled to kill a Nickerclaw Mirror anyway with this Mortarpod token. You don't have another line, so.
But I mean, that's kind of one of the advantages. That's kind of one of the advantages to playing against, or excuse me, to playing Poison, is a lot of people don't understand how to play against you because they're just not familiar with playing against the deck.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Poison hasn't established itself so much that, you know, to the level of where like Zombies and Delver has, that like everyone is used to like, oh, here's how I play against Poison. Here's what I need to do against that deck. Here's what I need to do against this deck. Like, people don't really know the nuances of what can happen to you if you if you sequence your things incorrectly.
And I also think there's just, you know, I mean, this has been talked about for the better part of like 10 years now, but there is definitely this habit that people have is like, I have an instant, therefore I'm going to cast it on my turn. And what just happened was he blocked a Nickerclaw Mirror with his Mortarpod token and then tried to shoot it before damage, but that causes Nickerclaw Mirror's power to trigger, turning into a 3/3.
Yeah.
So the Mortarpod shot no longer kills it.
Yep. As we see a Gravecrawler get equipped here. Again, he has the tool. He has all the tools to be able to win this game. Yeah. And now we do see a main phase shot.
And a recast. I believe the last card in Taylor's hand is a misstep.
That is correct.
He just drew another one.
It was either a misstep or Titanic Growth, not positive on which one. Potentially a Rancor, but I think if it was a Rancor, it would have been cast by now.
Yeah.
And put into play on the Nickerclaw Mirror, so I don't think that that's what it is.
You would put it on Nickerclaw Mirror, not Blight Mamba?
I mean, the only reason to put on Nickerclaw Mirror is because if he blocks something, it becomes a 5/3 trample. So, like, blocking it defeats like the purpose. Whereas you can put it on Blight Mamba to make it a 3/1 trampling regenerator. I mean, there are merits to each one.
Okay. Yeah, my instinct with Mortarpod in play would be to just like try to get it on the regenerating guy.
Sure.
It just causes the most complications for Nick on his own turn, trying to finagle his Mortarpod Gravecrawler shots.
And so this block here, he's going to regenerate, and so that's actually just going to end up removing the counter.
Yep.
And then like Butcher Ghoul just keeps like undying against Poison is like very frustrating.
Oh, the card was Glistening Elf.
Okay. Because now Butcher Ghoul's like reset now,
yeah.
So it just gets to keep like doing its thing, and it's just like very, very frustrating to play against if you're on the mono green infect side of things. And so now, I mean, we're just gonna get like, you know, he's playing rather cautious, you know, like, you know, Diregraph Ghoul could have probably attacked last turn, or, you know, some sequence of things, but at the same time, all he needs to do is just play like relatively safe, make sure he just doesn't die.
Yeah, so, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the, obviously the block and the Mortapod shot thing we already, or the Mortapod on his own turn. But in terms of like a general philosophy or attitude he's taking towards the game, I like the way that Vincent's handling things here. He's not trying to be too aggressive here. He has, you know, all the tools to grind this game down as long as he just doesn't like get punked out. And so his pacing here I'm a big fan of.
Sure. I agree with that. I think he understands like the game plan and what he needs to accomplish, but he may not be used to. I
would not pass the turn here. No, I would have shot down that Blight Mamba.
I would have shot down the Mamba too before the regeneration mana was available.
And he just drew a Titanic Growth, so I actually think this might be lethal. Like he, you know.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if one of those guys does get through, it looks like we're rewinding a little bit. Okay, so now he's going to attack.
I mean, you just have to block. Like, if Vincent uses his Mortapod preemptively, he's going. Well, he can do it before blocks. If he does it before blocks, that's fine, right?
Sure.
Because he can just block the Blight Mamba.
Block the Blight Mamba, yeah. So he just chooses to regenerate.
Okay. And then
he has to make the choice of and why wouldn't he block?
Fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, doing it before blocks so you have the information is the right way to pace that.
Agreed. And so yeah, he's going to lose that. This is going to get a counter onto it, so it's going, which was going to become a 2/2. Yep. Again, now that we know that Taylor has, Titanic Growth in his hand, Apostle's Blessing is a card that
it's still just lethal out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's still going to be lethal out of nowhere.
How many blessings are in his deck?
Scanning his deck list very quickly.
4.
He does have 4 in his main deck.
And one's been used.
So we're going to bring back a Gravecrawler here.
I mean, this turn I'm definitely just trying to kill the Blight Mamba.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to get his threats off the table.
He would need to have another land or another Mortapod to actually do all this, right?
Well, I mean, he theoretically
he can just move the Mortapod.
He can just move the Mortapod
under the Diagraph Ghoul or whatever.
Yes, I mean, he can definitely get it dead. He can get it dead if he opts to.
It seems like all you're trying to do is cover yourself from like some weird sequence of draws, basically. Like if you get to trade your Diagraph Ghoul for Mutagenic Growth, I think you're totally happy with that outcome.
I would agree with that. As he is going to shoot there. And so now he's considering, do I regenerate or do I Titanic Growth? But realistically, if you're Titanic Growthing here,
yeah, you're not giving yourself, your wheels.
Yeah, you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to win. So I think regenerating is, of the two options, the better of the two. Yeah. But they're both pretty like lose-lose situations.
So yeah, we're just gonna see a regeneration. Uh-oh, maybe not.
I mean, I feel like he has to cast it now, right? Like he's just giving away all the information.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like then your guy just gets. Then he just moves. Even if you do regenerate, don't you just like, all right?
Yeah, if you do regenerate, all right, shoot it.
Yeah,
sure.
Even if you Titanic Growth, he can still go. Okay, Mortapod onto Diagraph Ghoul. Go during your upkeep. Shoot your guy. Like
it's just lose all the way around.
Yeah. And now, and Vincent's been sitting on that messenger since like turn 3, basically. But he's been very disciplined in terms of how he's like using his mana and pacing the game. He actually hadn't really had an opportunity to actually land that thing.
But his pacing of the game has been like fantastic.
Oh yeah. No, like I said, I definitely had issues with some of the operations and some of the timing of some of the spells. But in terms of like carving out a game plan, I've very much like how Vincent's like handled this game.
Yes, I agree. Because now, like, he's in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
He's in the driver's seat, and it doesn't take long. Like, the thing is like, once he establishes control of the game, like, for a control deck, it might take him a little while to kill him.
Right.
You know, like, it might take, like, 5 or 6 turns to actually, like, find my threat, kill you with my threat. With zombies, it's like, no, like, my guys have, like, power and toughness that's relevant. I have a Mortapod. Like, you're just going to die, like, really fast.
Yep.
Once I get control of the game. So, Vincent up a game against Taylor, and I know that, Pat, you have Nick's deck list in front of you, so...
Yep. his nice sideboard cards are, I like Geth's Verdict a lot in these matchups because even if they have Wild Defiance online, it's fine, obviously. I also like Ratchet Bomb a lot. He has 2 copies in his sideboard, and it basically gives you Nexus protection. Plus, it's just the removal that is best against, that in my opinion is best against Mono Green Infect, if you're zombies, is all the removal that doesn't care about Wild Defiance.
Sure.
So your cards like, not that Dismember and Tragic Slip and those cards are bad against it. It's certainly fine to have more removal, but you can get into positions where they don't function once Wild Defiance is in play, or they're awkward to time or whatever. The Verdicts and the Ratchet Bombs of the world just always work, and that goes a long way to making sure that you don't get randomly punked out of games when you have removal, but Wild Defiance or Blessing or whatever is shutting it off.
Sure. No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Looking at Taylor's sideboard here, we have he has 3 Spell Skites, which are kind of where you want to be in this matchup. You know, it can draw out the removal. Something to sacrifice the Geth's Verdict, even though that's not a common card, but it's a way to trump Mortarpod, way to trump Tragic Slip. Also a good blocker.
Yes.
So it pulls a lot of weight in this particular matchup. An additional Blight Mamba, and I feel like that card's okay just because regeneration is relatively good here. Outside of those, Dismembers, not really where you want to be against zombies. An additional Zenith is potentially okay, but the additional Zenith normally comes in with the Malaria package, so we have to take care of opposing Malarias. And then an additional Mental Misstep, which is like, would normally be, I think, like an option if Nick had like a full set of Fume Spitters, like a healthy amount of Tragic Slips, that sort of thing, but he doesn't really have that. So I don't think an additional Mental Misstep would be useful, to the point where I might want to consider boarding some out.
Yeah.
And then lastly, a card that's not really seen very much is 2 Necropedes.
I think Necropede's very good here.
Yeah, and I think that Necropede is, I also agree, that I think Necropede is very good here as well.
Yeah. It's probably for more of like Bird and Elf decks or whatever, but it certainly does a lot of work here. Yeah, Nick's deck list is definitely unorthodox. He also has 2 copies of Black Zenith main, which is another like great answer to, not to Nexus, but to a sea of guys.
Yeah.
Again, something that doesn't care about Wild Defiance, which I think is the most important thing in terms of your removal suite for this matchup.
I would agree. I would agree.
So,
I think as far as this matchup goes, as we said at the top, this is the kind of matchup that favors zombies, just for like what they do, like once they take control of the game, the amount of pressure they can put on you to close out a game is very, very quick. It's very, very important for Taylor to win the games where he is on the play, and then try to steal the next game if we do get to play a 3rd game. Yeah.
Also, what I like about Nick's list is basically because he doesn't have any blue spells, the mana, unlike the Black-Red Zombie deck, is actually quite good. He has 4 Cavern, 4 Catacomb, 4 Darkslick Shores, and 10 Swamps. So it's actually very easy for him to cast his blue spells. He has basically 12 dual lands that facilitate his blue cards, as opposed to the Black-Red decks who are trying to cast Pillar of Flames or Brimstone Volleys off of 8 duels, which is much harder to do.
Yeah, and you know, cards like Pillar of Flame and Brimstone Volley, Pillar of Flame more so are like time-sensitive cards.
Yeah.
Like they need to be cast in the early turns of the game so they can have effect on the game, instead of like, oh, I drew my Red Source on turn 7, 2 to something, and it's like nowhere near as relevant. Whereas the blue splash that Nick has in his deck, the cards aren't nearly as time-sensitive. Like, of course, you like to be able to cast your Phantasmal Image on time in your Diagraph Captain, but it's not nearly as time-sensitive as like, I need to pillar your guy on turn 2 so I can keep attacking.
Right. So yeah, definitely having a much better mana base is a large part. I mean, initially when Zombies was on the scene, the blue-black version was the most popular one. A lot of that had to do with Diagraph Captain, but that sort of fell out of flavor, I think, in part because the mana curve was just bad. Like, you had Captain plus Messenger plus like presumably some number of Metamorphs, like plus whatever else. Sort of fell off the radar in favor of the red-black version. But Vincent's deck's curve is actually relatively streamlined. I mean, he's leaning a lot more on Phantasmal Image than Metamorph. And he's only got the 1 Captain, so his curve's actually pretty clean.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, the biggest problem that the blue-black version of the deck had. Just like the curve was just too clunky.
Yeah, I would agree. As we are looking to resolve mulligans, and is he allowed to keep 10 cards?
No.
No? Okay. This is a serious tournament?
No. Yeah, this is for realsies. No free Ancestrals.
So we've got 1 mulligan for Taylor on the play. And, you know, I have some, as I said earlier, I've got a pretty healthy amount of experience with Infects. It's a deck that is okay with taking 1 mulligan, certainly not okay with taking a second one.
Yeah, especially in a matchup where the opposing deck is going to be trying to trade 1-for-1 with you a lot.
Yes.
Just trying to wear you down that way.
6. Doesn't look to be in love with it. Says go. So we'll see what kind of hand Nick opted to keep here as we see a Drowned Catacombs and just passing the turn back. 2-drop is important. Spell Skite. Okay.
I mean, that's if he actually gets any sort of action going, that's very good, but...
As we see a Ratchet Bomb floating around in Nick's hand, also see, obviously, Cavern of Souls coming into play, likely to name Zombie, but we'll get confirmation on that momentarily. And there's also a Blood Artist hiding out in there as well. So
Blood Artist, I actually think, is quite poor in this matchup. A, because you just need to have guys that can brawl, like to trade. And secondly, because your life total is ooh, Cathedral of War, Spell Skite for 1.
You don't see it much.
Since your life total isn't under pressure, since they're poisoning you out, Blood Artist is a lot less relevant. Like, it doesn't heal poison damage, it's just healing you, so you're only getting the damage half of it.
Yeah.
So I think the total package of, like, it can't brawl and it's not really influencing the damage race that much means that card probably should have been boarded out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And he has a decent amount of cards that he does want to board in, not a ton, but that's an easy swap. And we do have confirmation that the Cavern of Souls is naming Zombie for Nick.
Darkslick Sword, I don't think he had a 3rd land before then, so that's a pretty big draw. The other reason that I don't like Blood Artist here is you're very likely to want to set your Ratchet Bomb to 2 because of Spell Skite and all of his 2-cost creatures.
Yeah, and then you're just going to be blowing up your own guy. Sure. You're getting a little bit of value out the door, but as you said, the goods, the bad outweighs the good.
Right.
In that certain exchange as well.
Like Dire Grapghoul is so much better because it requires some sort of answer from Taylor. Like, it trades with something.
Yeah.
It has to trade with something, so.
We'll see Geralt's Messenger for Nick. Obviously the best card that he can play on the 3-mana spot on the curve. So we'll see if Taylor's able to answer back in some sort of fashion as he just says go, which leads me to believe, and I know we don't have a good look at his hand, that he probably had one of the problems with this deck, of course, is your threat light, and if you don't draw a poison guy, you don't really do very much.
Right. He actually has an Niggerclaw Mirror in his hand, but he can't play it because of the Ratchet Bombs locking that out.
Sure.
So I assume we're just going to attack first, and I would be surprised if he just fired off his Ratchet Bomb cold here unless he has... Okay. Never mind me.
I mean, I understand him wanting to do that to get that out of the way, but again, I'm not... It's kind of hard, right? Like, I'm not in love with it, but because he has a Fume Spitter in his hand, so he could just, play his Fume Spitter, ting the Spell Skite, and then attack into him. But at the same time, the Fume Spitter is still going to be as valuable against the first Infect guy that he plays.
Yep, and there is a Bloodthrone Vampire that's a singleton.
Okay.
We're going to gut shot the Fume Spitter.
Oh, I like this. He knows how his deck works.
Yep.
Because now he's going to target that.
So what just happened was he sacked his Geralt's Messenger in response to Ding for 2, then sacrificed the Fume Spitter to get the counter off of the Messenger, and then run it back.
Yes.
So he got basically a free drain for 4 out of the deal.
In addition to the 2 points of damage that Taylor had to take from the gut shot. So actually a really, really good turn.
Very smooth sequence.
Top 64. Please come on and fill out some.
I know, while I do agree with you on what you said, a couple minutes ago about Blood Artist not being particularly good in this matchup, just because of all of its downfalls, like in this situation that we're in right now, because I know that he has at least 1 Blood Artist in his hand, potentially a second one, like...
He can start comboing out.
Yeah, he can just start fireballing him now,
and
it's just going to have a huge impact on the game. And he has the Gravecaller combo with it as well.
Yeah,
So now he can...
No, this is certainly a spot where it's fun. I mean, I would argue that many cards would be good given how far he is right now.
Yeah.
But this is certainly a good board for Blood Artist. The Artiste.
And now, of course, if you're playing Infect, or if you have played Infect, or if you want to put yourself in Taylor's position right now, having to block. When you are blocking with Infect, that's not good. That's not where you want to be at all. And you can see his head. You can see his head a little bit on his screen with running his hands through his hair. It's just not an ideal situation. When you have to start blocking with this deck, it's unlikely that you're in a winning spot.
The Infect deck does not brawl well against other creatures. It's not the type of game it's looking to play.
Realistically, the Infect deck is a combo deck in disguise.
Yeah.
I understand that it has creatures, Glistener Elf, Claw Mirror, Inkamoth Nexus, that sort of thing, but this is realistically a combo deck that's looking to kill you.
Yeah, it's much closer to Hatred than Stompy, if you want to compare it to an attacking deck. And this is also, like, no matter where he blocks on this attack, Vincent is totally fine to just be like, okay, cool, whatever. And he gets full information on how Taylor is going to, like, use pump spells or whatever the case to try to save his guy before he acts. Like, the ball's completely in Vincent's court.
And not only is the ball completely in Vincent's court, but as you said, he doesn't ever have to make a move. He can just sit tight the entire time. He's like, if you block, all right, I pass priority. What are you going to do? And then if you do something, well, then I'll move. And if you don't do anything, it's like, all right, your Ichor is dead. And so that means I'm not going to die.
It's almost like he has to block the vampire and just pass and lose his Ichor. Because if he takes any sort of action, he's just going to get killed by messenger plus vampire plus the 2 blood artists.
Yeah.
Which is, this is a pretty heinous spot.
And I think what's happening right now is Taylor's going through the motions and trying to figure out what his blocks are. He's basically thinking the exact same thing what you just said. It's like all blocks are pretty bad here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how he's supposed to win. And also, just like this amount of pressure means that all of his Phyrexian mana cards are being cut off as well.
Yeah, for sure. A card like, Mutagen Growth is a card that he can realistically cast right now. But like Apostle's Blessing, for example, it's not a card that he can cast because like he can just get fireballed up and get himself. Nick can put him at like around 2 life, so that Apostle's Blessing is locked out and all that stuff. So the Phyrexian mana cards are also just going to become significantly worse after this combat.
Yeah, if I'm Nick, I just pass here and say, all right, this is fine if you want to run it like this.
Yeah, I'm good with this trade. Titanic.
Okay. Like, yeah, part of me wants to sack like Gravecrawler plus 1 artist
To make your guy 5/5.
Yeah.
And then trade up with that. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making those trades just because
I don't think you want to keep your 2 blood artists here because you just want your messenger to connect. Like your other alternative is either going like sack messenger, or sack messenger Gravecrawler. But I think you still want to connect with your guy.
And that looks like exactly what he's doing as the 2 triggers from 2 blood artists are going to happen, putting Taylor down to 9, Nick up to 21. Again, I think the only thing that matters at this point is just make sure that when Taylor untaps, that Ichor is not on the table.
Yes.
That's realistically all that matters.
Yeah, and it looks like he's reaching for the blood artist. Yeah, I think I like this play. Like like you said, I'm pretty sure you just have to get Ichor off the table because there's just a random. All right, it looks like you. Yeah, I like this less. Like the reason that I would rather sack a blood artist here is not only do you connect for 3, but your blood artists go down in value once your vampire is no longer on the table.
Oh, I think this is just going to finish.
Oh, he's just finishing him off right here?
Yeah, because sack the messenger, the 2 triggers, I'm going to put on 7, messenger comes into play. Billy puts him down to 5. Sack the messenger, puts him down to 3. Sack a blood artist, puts him down to 1.
Now the other blood
artist is going to finish him. Yeah.
All right.
And so that's going to do it. Yep.
Okay.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Congratulations to Nick Vincent. That was very nicely done by him. Like I said,